Good morning. I hope you're doing well, and welcome to today's edition of the London Session Open. Today is February 14th, 2019, and we'll begin with my preferred market setups. And right now, this is copper. Not much happening here, so not trading this right now. Um, as I talked about yesterday, crude oil markets are interesting. And you can see today how Brent crude oil breached yesterday's high and is now moving upwards. My position in gasoline is in profit as well. As I said before, there's different ways. If you're trading something like, so this would be, let me see if I can find it. So this, for example, is the Brent crude. So it's Brent crude, not West Texas. U.S. oil has not breached. Now, as I mentioned yesterday, maybe going long on the break to yesterday's high would have been a good and reasonable entry. And stops, if I was long here, I would have put it at 62.22. So down here would have made sense, because if you zoom out here, you can see that if we include the spike, then the breakup point was 63.67. So we could easily move down there. And if you look at the highs, these highs are pretty much at 63.16. So really from this area here, the market could easily test, but not trade much lower. Should not trade much lower than 62.22, which is that trend finding level. So I think this is interesting, and I'm gonna see if I can buy a bit more, as I said yesterday, of my the position I'm already holding. If I don't buy more of that, I might buy this one, but I don't think I will buy this one. It's just gasoline futures by the RBO Bob one. This one has not necessarily breached its highs, it hasn't really broken out. But Brent crude oil definitely has, it's very straightforward. If you're trading again with broker like FXCM, you just need to identify this level here. So it's the low from February 12th at 7 p.m. London time. That's the one, and pullbacks down I think are interesting, and it does look like we're now gonna head upwards. And as I said before many times, we have at the onset a really good risk reward ratio here. You're looking at a potential return of, I think, 6 times almost. 6 times the risk. Like that. Okay, so 7 more or less. Are we gonna go all the way to 75.32? Probably not, but can we trade something to like 70, 80, 72? Yeah, probably more likely 5.32 times risk reward ratio. I'm a bit reluctant to add the currencies right now, but this is something as well I can pay close attention to. AUD and New Zealand dollar break below yesterday's low. That can open up further losses, and that will most likely sort of mark the departure from this area. And the way I would deal with this is, you see you have a high up here at 104.45. I think maybe it can be lowered a tiny bit. And then if we trade, say 103.88, which is about a few pip below this level, about 8-9 pip, then break here, opens up for that further decline. So I think that makes sense, and it would literally be a break to this low here, because breaking, just going back down here by itself is not really that interesting. GBP, Norwegian kroner, is actually moving away from that breakout point, so we probably not going to trade it anytime soon. This is GBP CAD, which is revisiting the breakout point. So there's different things one can buy now. One can buy alternatively just a little bit lower. I'm going to look at the minor charts yet, but this is the prior high, right? This is the original breakout at 651, and it could easily trade to that level, could easily trade below, but shouldn't trade much deeper into the pattern, and should really look to bottom up probably where we are. Might then go a little bit lower. How much lower? Well, that's when the fips come in play, low to high. So to be stopped out, the market needs to have a 61.8% correction of the whole move, slightly more actually, because it should be down here. And that's pretty much it. So I think for me, the focus right now is going to be probably buy a bit more of what I already own, and see if I can get a bit more. I'm talking about adding just a little bit more, because I can probably lower the stop loss a tiny bit. And sometimes what I do is that I just buy, and then, you know, I buy a smaller position, of course, and don't necessarily take the stop loss orders or close the position on because you just cross the level. It's more about the aggregate view on the market and the whole thing, like the feeling in the market. I used to do that quite a lot before, and sometimes you forget these practices, and it's a good practice. I remember it very well a few years ago, but also like I think beginning of this year, how I was doing that. All right, in regards to euro dollar, it's trading sideways, so I'm not going to do anything here until we trade below 112.17. That could be something. For example, if we trade below here, well, we now have a few highs up here, right? So we would look to risk about 128 pip if it would break today to potentially go lower. One could potentially also just work with today's high, but we need to break. And I'm not super enthusiastic about the macro fundamental outlook that I'm gonna have any pending orders or even be watching this. Rather, I'm gonna look at it, you know, a few times a day as I do, and then we have a close, and then probably, you know, after the close, I might take some sort of decision. GBP versus the USD. It's going good, going lower. That's what is happening. Brexit, it doesn't look like they are any closer to any sort of resolution here and some sort of a deal. I still think we can trade lower. The idea is to sell at 129.08 for this to go to 126.58. Dollar versus the Japanese yen breached that level very relatively soon. It's going to be at its target. I will book, just book this position 50%, if not 100. It could move a little bit upwards, but we have some very strong resistance up here, or like a level where it's not gonna be like a brick wall, but it's gonna be very difficult to trade much higher than that level, I think. The next market is the New Zealand dollar versus the USD, which is doing more of the same of trading sideways. So we need to bullish, potentially bearish here or here. Most likely this one's the better spot. Euro dollar starting to move lower, and we start to move lower here, then this becomes interesting. Okay. Aussie dollar versus the USD. This one is clearly trading sideways, not in any recognizable pattern, but consolidating between 72 to 97 and these levels down here. I think 69, 79. Dollar CAD consolidating, probably going to the middle. Dollar Swissy continuing to be bullish. It's very close to the highs. I think if I buy this one, I'm probably gonna buy it next week. Don't really want to buy it now. I'm talking about for this massive break. Here, No, dip to 10038. It's interesting. Potentially upwards. Gold prices continue to just trade sideways. There's not much happening here since we talked about buying. So from the 4th, wow, is it really the 4th? Yes, it is the 4th. Obviously, we talked about the breakout, that went fine, and then we adjusted the entry level at one point. Must have been on the 1st of February. So literally 2 weeks, it's trading sideways. The trading stop defining level has now been reduced to 1302. Could easily trade lower, and that would mean that we'd be stopped out, and at that point, I think it's time just to turn neutral. And then we have US oil prices. We'll discuss this. We need to break 55.76 before this starts to trade upwards. But most likely will trade upwards, I suspect, given the breakout we're seeing in Brent crude. S&P 500, there's not too much different here compared to what we were yesterday, but it's slowly moving upwards. The next target is 127.86, and here we just need to be patient. Let me see here. You might if you take Fibonacci from these levels like that and just look at the chart, you can see that probably down here somewhere could be interesting. We can probably reduce the trend funding level a tiny bit like that, and then I will work with something like that. So when we're trading up here, I said look for the dip, and we're trading up here, I said look for the dip, and that's what we need to do. Nasdaq 100, so we're very close to resistance. It's probably time to book some profits here, and I'm not ready to lift things. We're not really, the momentum here has died a bit. I think it's something that my gut feeling is telling me this could potentially just drift lower, sort of shake up the little trend and then just go down a bit and then go upwards. And then this is the Russell 2000. Again, we need a dip at least the breakup point. So looking at 1513, 1500, and then just being bullish about 1490. And German DAX, not a lot of activity, still creating that right shoulder there. And I think that's pretty much it. Okay, so we're gonna wrap things up. I can't actually take any questions unless you WhatsApp me. About my website, there's a certificate that has expired, and they usually are renewed automatically, but it looks like that service was not renewed automatically, so I need to investigate. It's just about giving the guys a call at my hosting company, telling them I want to renew it. I hope at least that's it. So I'm going to give these guys a call now, and the website should be up. If I can't resolve it now, maybe this evening, so we need to sit down and in worst case manually sort of update the details. So bear with me. The only thing here is that you see this little lock on this side. It's just that function that has expired, but it's nothing major. Okay guys, thanks so much for watching, and if you have questions during the day, just send me a message via WhatsApp. Thanks.